Those who saw him hushed. It was a silence that heard itself, awful and beautiful. Some thought at first that it must have been a trick of the light, something to do with the weather, an accident of shadow fall. But the longer they watched, the surer they were. He stood at the very edge of the building, shaped dark against the gray of the morning. A window washer, maybe, or a construction worker, or a jumper. Up there, at the height of 110 stories, utterly still, a dark toy against the cloudy sky. He could only be seen at certain angles, so that the watchers had to pause at street corners, find a gap between buildings, or meander from the shadows to get a view unobstructed by cornice work, gargoyles, balustrades, roof edges. None of them had yet made sense of the line strung at his feet from one tower to the other. Rather, it was the man shape that held them there, their necks craned, torn between the promise of doom and the disappointment of the ordinary. It was the dilemma of the watchers. They didn't want to wait around for nothing at all, some idiot standing on the precipice of the towers. But they didn't want to miss the moment either. If he slipped, or got arrested, or dove, arms stretched. Around the watchers, the city still made its everyday noises. Car horns, garbage trucks, ferry whistles, the thrum of the subway. The M22 bus pulled in against the sidewalk, braked, side down into a pothole. A flying chocolate wrapper touched against a fire hydrant. Taxi doors slammed. Bits of trash sparred in the darkest reaches of the alleyways. Sneakers found their sweet spots. The leather of briefcases rubbed against trouser legs. Revolving doors pushed quarters of conversation out into the street. The man above remained rigid, and yet his mystery was mobile. He stood beyond the railing of the observation deck of the South Tower. At any moment, he might just take off. Below him, a single pigeon swooped down from the top floor of the federal office building, as if anticipating the fall. The movement caught the eyes of some watchers, and they followed the gray flap against the small of the standing man. The bird shot from one eave to another, and it was then the watchers noticed that they had been joined by others at the windows of offices, where blinds were being lifted and a few glass panes labored upward. All that could be seen was a pair of elbows, or the end of a shirt sleeve, or an arm garter. But then it was joined by a head, or an odd-looking pair of hands above it, lifting the frame even higher. In the windows of nearby skyscrapers, figures came to look out. Men in shirt sleeves and women in bright blouses, wavering in the glass like funhouse apparitions. Some cops on the West Side Highway switched on their misery lights, swerved fast off the exit ramps, making the morning all the more magnetic. A charge entered the air all around the watchers, and now that the day had been made official by sirens, there was a chatter among them, their balance set on edge, their calm fading. And they turned to one another and began to speculate. Would he jump? Would he fall? Would he tiptoe along the ledge? Did he work there? Was he solitary? Was he a decoy? Was he wearing a uniform? Did anyone have binoculars? Perfect strangers touched one another on the elbows. Swear words went between them, and whispers that there'd been a botched robbery, that he was some sort of cat burglar, that he was really just a publicity stunt, a corporate scam. Drink more Coca-Cola, eat more Fritos, smoke more Parliaments, spray more Lysol, love more Jesus. And then someone said that maybe he was a hang glider or a parachutist, and all the others laughed. But they were perplexed by the cable at his feet. And the rumors began again, a collision of curse and whisper, augmented by an increase in sirens, which got their hearts pumping even more. While down in the foyer of the World Trade Center, the cops were sprinting across the marble floor, and the undercovers were whipping out badges from beneath their shirts, and the fire trucks were pulling into the plaza, and the red-blue dazzled the glass, and the whole August morning was blown wide open, and the watchers stood rooted. There was no going anywhere for a while. Way above, there was a movement. In the dark clothing, his every twitch counted. And a new hush settled over the cops above and the watchers below. A rush of emotion rippling among them, because the man had arisen from the bend holding a long, thin bar in his hands, jiggling it, testing its weight, bobbing it up and down in the air. A long black bar so pliable that the ends swayed. And his gaze was fixed on the far tower, still wrapped in scaffolding, like a wounded thing waiting to be reached. And now the cable at his feet made sense to everyone. And whatever else it was, there would be no chance they could pull away now. The waiting had been made magical. The watchers below pulled in their breath all at once. The air felt suddenly shared. The man above was a word they seemed to know, though they had not heard it before. Out he went.